Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Argos Anonymous. My name is Adam, and holy senorita tacos, Batman. Have you seen Hoenna Tux taking the showcases by storm lately? I mean, we've had some showcases. There's been a broad diversity of deck lists. We're seeing Rena Corona. We're seeing, Liam Kite, Liam Arcetovis, different Hoenna builds, different Eaton mono kites. We're seeing Metal Serpio. We're seeing all kinds of stuff. Jamile's in there. If I didn't name your champion, it's not that I don't like him. It's just that today we're not talking about them. We're talking about Hoenna Tux because two of the recent championships have had Hoenna Tux as the top deck. So this is going to be the top deck list for the Southern Minnesota showcase that happened recently. And if you don't want to hear anything else I have to say, that's cool. There's the deck list, okay? So you can take that home. Just keep in mind, these are always changing and evolving. So use this deck list as a framework and then make it your own. Add your own spin to it. Change it based on your local meta needs. Whatever cards you're seeing played, whatever you have to do. And then the game is always evolving because you've got the loot box cards that come out, and then you've got cards that come out for the LGS events and whatnot. And that's cool. That's fine. That's a nice little feature of this game. So you'll probably have to modify this over time, but for now, these are the cards that are winning the West. Without further ado, let's talk about Hoenna Tux. So starting off, like most, if not all, Hoenna decks, you're gonna have a golem package, and the first golem we're going to talk about, as usual, is the failed golem number 1. So this is a 1-cost 1000 power golem unit. When he dies, you can send a golem unit from your deck to your discard zone. So the point here is you want to put useful golems in your discard zone, because usually if you're playing the dark element, you have a way to bring units back from your discard zone at the time whenever you need them, So the golems you're going to be searching for in this deck is, you've got one Golem of Allurement. This is a 3-cost 1500 power golem that when he arrives, you take control of a unit that costs 1 or less, right? So a convenient way to use this is if you crack your opponent's light tower and it creates a 0-cost Guardian token, then you can play an Allurement, take control of it. And if you have another unit, then you might swing for the game or something. Or if you're playing against a weenie deck like a Liam, something with low cost units, or maybe you're playing against Matile or Dragons, you can drop this and just take control of it, and that's kind of fun. Another nice golem that you might tutor for with failed golem is you've got 3 Golem of Avarice. This is a 3-cost 2000 power unit. When he arrives, if you control another golem unit, you can discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand. So in Hoenna, the ability of the hero is every time it destroys a unit or tower in battle, you can place a token on this card, right? And then you can exchange 3 tokens for a 1500 power golem unit. And so because of that, you can just create these units at any time, pretty much whenever it's convenient to you. So before you go and you play your Golem of Avarice, use your tokens, fart out a golem unit, and then you can play this and make your opponent discard a card. If they have to discard a card, it's instant utility. No matter what happens to this, you forced your opponent to discard a card. And then most likely they're going to have to use a card to deal with this, which means you're now up 1, right? You made a card, you got rid of a card, but then they have to spend a card to deal with it. So this is an instant, in my opinion, an instant +1 card, which is a very powerful card. So that's why you have it in your deck. The other 3 golems we're going to talk about are Golems of Devourment. These bad boys keep you alive. So when he dies, you search your deck for his replacement, and it comes right into play. And then he dies, and then the next one comes into play. And so you could literally burn through all 3 of these in 1 turn, and you will if you're playing against an aggro deck like Hadir or Liam. So this is how you stay alive, and maybe in a pinch, maybe you want to search for one of these with your failed golem, put it into your discard, and then bring it back with a spell we're going to talk about, Omega Magic Yami. So you're going to have 3 Omega Magic Yamis. This is your 2-cost insta-cast or instant speed spell. Basically, you pay 2, and you can bring a 3-cost or less unit from your discard zone directly into play. So it's really great. You're paying 2, and you get a 3 out of it, right? So why not? You can bring back something like a golem that you searched for. You can bring back something that died, or you could bring back another card we have in here, my boy Dalen. So you're going to have one Dalen, the Conjurer's Raven, a legendary Raven. He's a 2-cost, 500 power unit. This guy is amazing, which is why he's legendary. So when he arrives, if your champion is Hoenna, the Immoral Conjurer, which of course she is, you get to choose one. You can put 3 counters on Hoenna, and remember you can exchange 3 counters for a 1500 power golem at any given time. Or you can remove all counters from Hoenna and then search your deck for a non-legendary unit that costs equal to or less than the number of counters you removed and put them directly into play. So we're just gonna put a little pin in this, and we're gonna talk about this more towards the end, what you're gonna do with that. But a nice thing is if you play a Dalen, you can put like 3 counters on it, and then if Dalen dies, you can Yami it back and put on 3 more. Sometimes that's a nice way to go. Moving onward, we have a Hoenna Horrific Perfection. This is an Omega unit, very powerful unit, 4 cost, 3500 power. Remember that an Omega unit has to be played on top of a Golem unit. So in order to play it, you have to have a Golem unit in play, and then this just like, whoop, comes right up on top of it. It's basically like an evolution if you've played some other games like that, which I, by the way, haven't, so that's just kind of an assumption on my part, but it seems like it. This guy's great because the way Hoenna Horrific Perfection works is you can destroy target unit or augment with cost X by exiling that many units from your discard zone. So if the unit you're targeting, or augment I guess, costs 2, you just exile 2 units and you can just destroy it. So it's amazing for clearing tokens, because tokens have no cost. So if your opponent has tokens, you're just like, boo, boo, boo. You're just killing off their units with this amazing Ascension secret rare card, Hoenna Horrific Perfection. Of course, like all Hoenna decks should have, you're going to have 3 Hoenna's Wrath. Super ridiculously powerful wipe card featuring Hoenna, of course. This is going to first put into play 2 Berserker Golems, which I use these bad boys, these tokens here. These are 2000 power Golem units. After it puts in these, then all of the non-golems in play, get minus X thousand, where X is the number of golems you control. So at the minimum, this is going to give every non-golem minus 2000, which on turn 4 is usually a board wipe. Almost a board wipe, right? But if you even have one other golem out, if you have like a failed golem, or if you have anything else, it becomes a 3000 power or 4000 power board wipe that also gives you 2 units. It's nuts. And then of course you just play another one a couple turns later and you're really messing with your opponent's day. So you get to clear your board and create more bodies, which is why this deck is so powerful. You have a lot of strong removal, but you just keep making your own replacement bodies all the time, and your opponent just runs out of gas. Speaking of which, we're going to have 3 of the augments Hidden Laboratory. This card's outstanding. It's a 2-cost augment, but as soon as it comes into play, it puts 3 counters on Hoenna. Now remember, 3 counters on Hoenna can be exchanged for a 1500 power golem. So basically you're paying 2 to get a 1500 power golem from Hoenna. If that's how you want to spend the counters, fine. This card though, if you read it, you can exhaust this card, sacrifice a golem to draw a card. So every single time throughout the course of play that your opponent decides to kill one of your golems, you're just like, he'll try to kill it, and you're like, oh, cool story, bro. And then you just, you tap your Hidden Lab and you just sack the golem and you draw a card. So if you get a couple of these out, it's really hard to get for your opponent to get card advantage on you, because every time they kill anything, you're just sacking it with Hidden Lab and maintaining your card advantage and just playing more stuff the next turn. And it's kind of ridiculous. We're going to have 3 Water Celestial Crystals. So what this is basically is it just thins your deck, because if you play 1, it only costs 1 to play, and if you play it, your Water Tower gets plus 500 defense, fine. So it keeps you alive maybe slightly longer. But when it comes into play, you get to draw a card. So it basically replaces itself. Once you have this in play, then when you have the other ones, if they come up, you can just discard them and draw a card. It says if you have a Water Celestial Crystal in play, you can discard 1, draw a card. So basically you play 1, it replaces itself, it gives you a new card, and then it pumps up your Water Crystal, and then you just thin your deck out with these. So that's kind of nice. If you had to sideboard something, you could sideboard those, I would think, pretty easily. we've got some bombs. So we talked about Dalen. If you play, let's say your Hoenna has a couple of counters on her, and then you play a hidden lab, right? And maybe you get Hoenna up to like, God forbid, 6 counters, right? So if you had like 6 counters on your Hoenna, you could drop a Dalen and search for anything that costs 6 or less. Or maybe you had 3 counters on her, you drop a Dalen, bump it to 6. Something kills the Dalen, like maybe you kill it with your own Hoenna's Wrath, and then you can use an Omega Magic Yami, bloop, and bring it back into play. And then when it comes back into play, now you can dump all 6 counters off your Hoenna and search for something that costs 6 or less. What are you searching for? You've got Stormcaster of the Azure Tower. This guy's a 4,000 power, 6 cost destroyer that when it arrives, if there's a destroyed water tower, which by the time this comes out, there often is, you get to return up to 2 target units your opponent controls to the bottom of their deck, which is crazy. Not in the discard, not back to their hand, to the bottom of their deck. The next bomb is a 6 cost, 4,000 power Golem of Vengeance with Destroyer. When it arrives, you get to look at your opponent's hand, pick a card, force him to discard it. But if you control 2 or more other Golem units, you get to pick 2 cards, force him to discard it. So it's an instant +1, and then it sticks as a 4,000 power destroyer, which is just kind of crazy. But that's not all. With a couple more blue spells we're going to use to stay alive and control the board, we've got Ancient Serpent's Breath ×3. This is a super, super, super ridiculously powerful card because it's an instant. It's a 1 cost. What you can do is you can bounce a unit that costs 2 or less back to your hand. And if you do, you draw a card. Or you can bounce an opponent's unit back, and if you do, they draw a card, fine. But as an additional cost to play this card, you can do something called Shard Drain. What Shard Drain is in addition to paying the 1, you can take one of the shards you have in play, and you can put it on the bottom of your shard deck to get an additional ability. So that, in this case, is return target unit to the top of its owner's deck. So if your opponent goes to kill one of your cards, you can like instant respond. You can save it if it's a little one, like let's say or maybe it's a Dalen. Let's say you play a Dalen and you get your 3 counters out of it onto Hoenna, fine. And then you can Ancient Serpent's Breath it back into your hand for only 1 Shardlight, which is nuts, and then play it again, and then search for one of your 6/6/6 bombs. Or if he dies, you Yami it, and you search. So this is basically another way to replay your Dalen. It's another way to save one of your little things, or it's a great way to remove 2 of your opponent's units in a pinch at instant speed for only 1 cost. It's crazy. Anyway, then you've got 3 Phantasmal Storms. Again, it's just more removal. It's a 2 cost, instant speed. It does 2,000 damage to something. This card's great though because if you've got one in your discard, you can Shard Drain, which again means you take one of your shards and you put it on the bottom of your shard deck. So it basically sets you back like 1 turn for what your shard count is, right? You can Shard Drain, expel it from your discard, and then search your deck for another one. So once you find one of these, then you have access to the other 2, which again just shows how much powerful card advantage this deck has with Hidden Lab and with Mayu and with Phantasmal Storm and with Hoenna just farting out units all day. There's just a ton of advantage in this deck. We're going to have 1 Omega Magic Mizu. This is a 2 cost instant. It basically just keeps you alive. You can like exhaust a unit and you can return an exhausted unit to their owner's hand. So after your opponent attacks you, like after they declare combat and they tap their unit and they declare a target, then you would cast this and you would bounce the tapped unit and tap their other unit. So it like just saves you, keeps you alive for another turn when you're against something aggro-y or whatnot. And then of course you're probably going to be playing Corona Shard. This is the shard where you can soul burst your spirit, like your Tux, to just kill something. And that's a really handy shard to have up. So we're going to play 1 Eccentric Visitor. This lets us recover our spirit. If we've flipped our spirit face down, if we've soul bursted our spirit to use Corona, we can play this and we can flip it back up just so we can use Corona again, basically. I guess you could also use Tux for his soul burst ability. Tux You can pay 3 and stun your opponent's entire board, which if you're playing against Liam is definitely a possibility. You might just stun their whole board or some other aggro thing like Rena Corona or Hadir Sola or Hadir or Sotovis, whatever. You can use Tux, Soul Burst him, stun their whole board, and then later drop the Eccentric, bring Tux back up, and then you get to regain that utility, which is quite nice. Another blue creature, Big Bomb. Only a couple more things to cover here. We're almost to the end. Is going to be your Ayakuma Juggernaut. This is a great card. It's 5 cost, 3,000 power. It's a Guardian. The thing is, most Guardians are a one-shot, right? Because they have to exhaust to guard. So in each turn, they can only really guard once. The Juggernaut is different. This card, after it uses Guardian, you switch it to active after the battle. So during the battle, you exhaust it to use Guardian, and then if it survives, it just goes back up. And then you can block again, block again. So it's going to keep you alive for like another turn against a nice aggro deck if they're attacking you with little rinky-dinky things. But also you can protect it, because at any time you can Shard Drain. You can do that thing where you take a shard and put it on the bottom of your deck. And if you do that, he can't be targeted by spells or abilities. So there's your Ayakuma Juggernaut. Your last 6-drop is a 3,500 power, 6 cost Mayu, the legendary sorceress, who is nuts. When Mayu arrives, you get to bring back a spell from your discard zone, and then the next spell you cast this turn costs 0. So, Hoenna's Wrath, can we say? If you bring back a Wrath and you play it, and then you get 2 more golems, and if you don't have at least 4 golems in play, then she doesn't even die. So you bring back a Wrath, you put out 2 more golems, you kill your opponent's board, she doesn't even die. It's crazy. Anyway, those are your bombs. Of note, by the way, as you are shard draining with Juggernaut, and you're shard draining with the Phantasmal Storms, and you're shard draining with the Ancient Serpent's Breath, Mayu has an ability that says, once per turn, including during your opponent's turn, don't forget that, when you play a card with Shard Drain, or use Shard Drain, you get to return a unit to the top of its owner's deck. So, so if you have Mayu on the board and you cast an ASB to bounce 2 units, Mayu lets you bounce a 3rd unit just because it has Shard Drain on the card. So that's like super kind of crazy. Mayu's so good. This is one of those amazing Betrayal, that first booster set, just an amazing card. All right, of course, we have the obligatory 3 Bone Scavengers in here. Bone Scavenger is going to eat units out of your opponent's discard zone and just break their combos. That's it. It's a low cost. It's a beast. You pay mana, you pay Shard Light, and you just eat units out of their discard. And then last, and probably not least, but it's getting kind of down there. Honorary mention, we're going to have one, Mab Mob, the Very Dowager. This is a 4 cost, 2,500 power unit. The big thing about this is it's a +1, because as soon as it arrives, you get to add a dark unit back to your hand, or your opponent discards a card. So if you know they have a problematic card, like a Medial Celestial of Ruin or something, you can force them to discard a card. And then when she dies, they have to discard another card, right? So it's just a great 4-drop that it's just gonna fit in with all the other bombs in this deck. And that, my friends, is Hoenna Tux. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you've played this deck and you have any modifications or ways you're thinking of playing it, or weaknesses that you've noticed, you should put it in the comments. Let us know. If you're excited to play this, let us know. Hoenna's a really awesome champion, and she has really cool artwork too. So it's fun, man. It's fun to play this. It's fun to play Hoenna Tux. It's a really enjoyable archetype with the golems and the bomb cards. It's a really powerful combination of things. It can, with Golem of Devourment, if you get those out, you can survive against aggro. And with the hand discard and whatnot, you can break some combos. It's nice. And then if you put, Demon of the Evil Eye, or like Interdimensional Horror, things that you can discard more specific cards from your opponent's hand. If you put that in your sideboard, then you can even start breaking some more complex combos that are out there. Anyway, that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a great rest of your week, y'all. Argos out.